Hey everyone, this is Alex, and this is the second part of my live betting series. So if you haven't watched the first video, I definitely would recommend watching that one first. That one was more about my settings in Smart Stake, what I use for live betting, and like my setup and how to actually get faster in terms of placing the bets. This one is going to be more about my strategy, how I find the bets that I place, which ones I actually place, some tricks, stuff like that. Um, but yeah, so if you haven't watched that first video, definitely go back and watch that. But if not, yeah, when we're ready for this one, let's get into it. Okay, so in the last video, I mentioned that you definitely want to be live betting on Smart Stake on your computer. It's definitely easier, way easier to see. Another reason is that it frees up my phone, and I can just sit on Picket on my phone, which is the bet tracker that I use. And what I like to do is while I'm live betting, if a bet pops up, let's say there's a big slate one night, a huge like NBA slate, and a bet pops up and it's total points for the next game. Let's say it's this. So I will click it first. As it's loading on DraftKings, I'll go on Picket, quickly find the Knicks game, see if I already have a bet in that market, and then by the time this loads, I'll know whether or not I have the bet already placed or a variation of that bet in that market. And it's just kind of an easier way for me to, remember what I have. It's hard to remember everything that you have, but also just so that you don't accidentally place the under if you already have the over or something like that. Now, betting against yourself, if you call it that, like having a bet in an over and under in the same game, maybe they're not the exact same number. Maybe you have over, I don't know, 220, but under 225, something like that. They might both hit. It's not inherently a bad thing to have bets on both sides if they were plus EV at the time. I think I'm going to make a longer video about that topic specifically because it is kind of a nuanced topic. But what I like to do on a normal night is I'll just try to get one bet down in each market for each game that's on or whatever value I see. But I like to get, like for all the NBA games, live betting, I like to at least get a bet down on either the spread or money line, or sometimes both, for the same team, and then a bet on the over under, all from the live EV tool. But yeah, so you having the Picket open on your phone helps you not have two different bets in the same market. Okay, so getting into the actual betting, I'm just going to kind of wait for something to pop up and see if I like it or not. And then I'll kind of stop to explain my thought process. But so, for example, this one, you see plus 125 on DraftKings. This is the whatever box you have here is going to be what Sharpbook is it's devigging to. So this is saying plus 125 is great value. Here, I actually would place this bet. It's probably gone already, but as you can see, most markets actually have the Rockets favored. Now they're all moving around. But Bookmaker had pretty much no lean in their market, so it was plus 100 fair line. So plus 125 is great value there. I'm sure this bet is still not here on DraftKings, but that's why you kind of got to be quick. But the thought process is pretty much the same as what it would be for pregame. So this is actually a good example. So this is one thing to look out for when live betting. Sometimes the exchanges, if they're not very liquid, which just means there's not a lot of people actively betting on it, that happens a lot in live bets because the exchanges are kind of hard to use live because if you're market making. So if you're offering liquidity to the market, everything's moving around so quickly, it's just hard to do. But I don't know if you guys saw it. It already moved, but this had minus 999 on it. So someone's just throwing out, a very good EV bet for them, but you just wouldn't place a minus 999 right now in a 0-0 game. They're just hoping someone picks it up. But when stuff like that happens, it skews this fair value line because it's still acting like that's a fair market. And so if you have, I don't know, minus 110 on one side and minus 999 on the other side, it's going to say the fair value is like plus 300 or something. And then if there's something with better value available, it's going to say, oh, well, every other market's going to have better value than that because that's a very skewed fair value. So that's why you got to just be careful. You can't just sit on this tool and live bet everything that pops up because some like that are going to happen. So you just got to be careful with that when you're devigging to the exchanges. Okay, here's actually an example I wouldn't place. So before anything moves, the fair value here is saying is plus 204, but every other book is above that. So even though bookmaker's the sharpest book we have, look, it already moved up. So now it's, you know, telling you it's not as good a value as it originally thought. So live betting is very difficult also for the books to do because even the sharpest books can be lagging behind and it's just kind of hard for everyone to keep up. So you really got to be sure having the devigged book, having good value to the devigged book is a good start, but that doesn't mean that you should just automatically place that. You still have to look at the rest of the market. You want to see still at least 2 to 3 sharp books that agree that there's good value, plus the market consensus, which is just kind of all the other books combined. You just want to see that one book you're betting on as the outlier. Okay, here's one that looks decent, plus 146. We got to see if it moves. The rest of the market, also, you want to make sure you can, if you keep updating this, it might move in between you placing it and you actually seeing the bet. So it's got to verify my location, but I can come back here, see if it's still good value. I still like it. Now we have 2 sharp books there. Wait till it finishes verifying. And I know that if the odds change, it's going to pop up right there and say review, odds change. So you kind of just want to learn all the things on the sports book where, the next button you have to click is going to pop up because every split second counts. But I think that was a good bet now. Um, plus 146. Most other books are around plus 120. And we had liquidity on Profit X offered at plus 155 or something like that, which is pretty close to this. The spreads are generally going to be wider live. So even if it's a few more cents off from that uh, upper bound, you could still find value even though the spreads are so wide. Another thing I like to do during a slate is just kind of, pick through all the bets that are available at that time, maybe for 10, 15, 20 minutes, place what I want to place, and then I like to take a break and come back like an hour later. So as you use this tool, you'll kind of see that in like any 5 minute window that the same bet is going to be popping up a lot, or at least a similar market, similar bet is going to keep popping up because there's just a certain book that is out of line and maybe they're scaling up and down with the sharp books, but there's a difference. So it's like if this is the sharp market and then maybe DraftKings is over here, maybe they both moved up, but there's still that difference between them. So those same bets are going to keep popping up for, I don't know how, I can't tell you how long, but a 5 or 10 minute window, you might keep seeing like Bills money line. We keep seeing it pop up here, or the over in that Vikings game on FanDuel. All the different spreads are messed up because they're just off from the sharp books. But yes, I like to pick through them, place what I want to place. See, here's another one. Bills money line. This would be great value. Um, yeah, EV to Novig and every other book is kind of not close to 172. I already am on the Steelers in this game, so I'm not gonna be placing a bet. But yeah, so I like to kind of just pick through them for 20 minutes and then come back an hour later and there'll be new games that are on. There'll be games that are in different points in the game. And it's just, you'll just get a new cycle of bets to pick through. Okay, so here's a scenario where it's really only devigging to one book. I don't know what this sports book is, Prime Sports, but every time I see it, it's the same as Bookmaker. So I can't 100% say this is true, but I'm pretty sure they just track bookmakers' lines. But when it's devigging to just one other book, even if it's a sharp book that it's devigging to, I generally would just not bet on it. Like I said before, I'm sure this bet will pop up again. Maybe it'll be There'll be other sports books that we could look at their lines later, but for right now, at least in this exact moment, I wouldn't just trust one other book to place a bet, nor should you ever really do that. Okay, so here's a good example of where Pinnacle is kind of the outlier. Um, they're the ones that are, favored more towards this under than everybody else. It's devigging to Pinnacle. It's already gone, but it's devigging to Pinnacle. So it's going to say this fair value. It's going to say your FanDuel at plus 154 versus the 141 fair value of Pinnacle is good value. But as you saw, everyone was kind of around plus 155 before. Um, so what I wanted to say was that even if the sharp book is leaned towards, one way, like we just saw, I wouldn't trust that blindly, but also you should expect everything else to move a little bit towards the sharp book, but also the sharp book might say, "Oh, the market's down there. We need to actually come back a little." So, yes, Pinnacle was the sharpest book on there, and if I had to choose a book to take the fair line from, I'm always going to take Pinnacle. But that doesn't mean that it means maybe they were leaned towards the correct way in that moment, but they could come back a little and maybe all the soft books meet them in the middle, and then maybe the bet that you thought you had good value on based on this fair value that Pinnacle originally had, maybe that all that value is gone when Pinnacle kind of moves a little towards the middle and the soft books move a little towards the middle. So we could see this settling kind of around where FanDuel just was. And something might have happened in the game, whatever. But I'm just saying, don't ever trust the sharp books implicitly, and if they're very far off, you should expect them to bounce back towards the soft books a little bit. Um, but yeah, I still would trust them more than any of the soft books, but that's where taking the soft books uh, data or lines into consideration can be a bit useful when there's not as many sharp books to devig to. Now, in that same scenario, if there were two sharp books like this, these are both leaned towards that. So see, all the soft books are kind of around plus 135, 140, and the two sharp books are, you know, not as favored towards Vegas to cover that spread. So when there's two or three sharp books, I would trust them way more. If two sharp books have identical odds, I would say, okay, with high confidence saying that's the correct line right now. And so if you can get wildly EV odds on a different sharp or a softer book compared to those two, then take it, yes. But two and three sharp books versus one, you definitely have way more confidence in. Here's another one where Pinnacle's just very, very far away from everyone else. Almost all of these bets are arbitrage to Pinnacle right now. So, yes, FanDuel's showing good value versus that 176 fair value, but I expect Pinnacle, they just moved. I expect them to come kind of towards the softer books a little bit just because the value they were giving was very good compared to the rest of the market. So in a few seconds, maybe this 176 doesn't look as good anymore. When Pinnacle, look, they took their odds down. And when they pop back up, I'm sure they're gonna be closer to everyone else here. So that 220 versus 176 in that moment didn't really matter because Pinnacle was actually wrong. So that's kind of what makes live betting much harder is that you don't ever really have supreme confidence in your edge because everything's moving around so quickly. And you don't really know what the fair line is at any given moment in the middle of a game. But that's why you really just want to focus. Okay, like that's fantastic value. This is arbitrage to three sharp books. Again, I'm already on the Steelers, so I'm not going to bet it. But look, the rest of the market is around plus 110 and you're getting plus 140 on FanDuel. So like, yeah, that's a supreme confidence bet. But yeah, there's no point in just throwing out every live bet you see on this tool. You really want to focus in on ones like this where they're really far off. So yeah, I don't really have the answer to how to live bet correctly. This is kind of just what I do. Focus in on the plays that you can see clear value because live, it's just a mess. Everything's moving around so quickly. there are times when I can see the bets that I just placed and the line moving against me, and it's like, what are you gonna do? It's hard. Um, I would definitely master pregame betting first. Just having giving yourself more time to look through all the lines and find the fair value and confirm your edge in pregame. If you can't do that on the fly, you shouldn't be live betting. So I I encourage everyone to kind of master the quick processing of all this information and deciding if you want to place the bet. That should be very, very quick before you attempt live betting, because you're going to get crushed if you don't have confidence in your bets and you don't really know what to place on the live side. You're just going to get crushed. So I definitely recommend getting all that figured out with the pregame bets first. But yeah, the live isn't that much different. It's different in the sense of just everything's moving so quickly, and you kind of don't really know what to trust in certain circumstances. But I like to think if I have any doubt in the bet of the edge, I don't like the edge, I'm not going to place it. The bet's going to pop up again 10 minutes later if I rethink it and whatever. But yeah, I would just be more selective for the live bets. You usually get higher, or I at least get higher limits on my live bets. So that's one good thing and why I do it. But yeah, I definitely would be more selective with your live bets, at least at the beginning, see how you're progressing. Start out with smaller wagers too, just to kind of get the hang of it. But yeah, I think that's all I got for this video. If anyone has any questions here, you could DM me on X. My username is at Keep On Betting. But yeah, so I hope everyone enjoyed this video. And yeah, I'll talk to you at the next one.